can be good for you.
Oh, true.
Do we want to do 30 seconds? It's a nice leisurely.
Sure.
Okay.
Nice round number.
On the podcast, they were talking about like making the claps sound good and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it's just because they're all in the same city. So
I was thinking the exact same thing, that they were talking about like, oh, that was like the perfectly synced clap. And it's like, yeah, they don't have to deal with time zones.
I guess, yeah. Because I was like, why would you care if it's perfectly synced?
I don't think they actually cared. I think they were just observing. They're like, wow, that was like
probably
perfect unison. Amazing. All right, by time.is. Oh, wait. When did the future switch from being a promise to being a threat?
Chuck Palahniuk is overrated.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a good writer. It's a lot of, he maybe is even a great writer, but there's a lot of great writers.
Yeah. I read Fight Club, the book, and it was underwhelming.
The book is significantly better than the movie, too.
I don't even know.
Hello. Sorry.
Oh, God. Fuck.
Wow. Resounding success. Hello, and welcome to Fight Club.
That's the cold open. Hello, and welcome to episode 143 of Gaming Fix on this October 17th day. I'm Allison. I am clearly not used to this because Andre is not here today, but today I am joined by Pat.
Hello. I like that you said October 17th day because in our document it says October 7 turd.
I did, and like when I said day, that was because it completely threw me off. That
my brain
7 turd.
My brain did the exact same thing that your brain did, even though I wasn't the one saying it out loud because I was reading it as you were saying it, and so I had the same.
Like,
I drifted with you for a moment there and was like, oh fuck.
I had that happen too, where you're like, I'm reading it, and then it comes to that, and it like time slows down, and it's like, how am I going to say this? And I'm also joined by Alex today.
Hi, that shows you how much Andre has been doing this, because we've been using that suffix, the -erd suffix.
Oh yeah,
probably over a year, maybe 2.
No, I know. I notice it whenever I open the doc, but since I never like pay attention when someone's saying it at the beginning, it's just never really.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that I see it as like, oh, haha, that's funny. But then now I'm like, oh, I have to say it out loud for real.
Yeah, so there's some inside baseball for our listeners. We write the date every time, and it always says date number RD.
Yeah.
It's great though when it's like day that ends in a T, because now it's October 7 turd, which is funny.
That is very funny. Yeah.
It is a turd.
You know, this year is a turd, let's be honest.
Steaming turd.
Yeah.
Just a giant stinker.
By the
worst.
By the way, Andre is not here today. He's having a wonderful celebration. So we wish him the best.
He's actually great. My favorite thing right now on Twitter is when people say in response to something in a ridiculous way, so-and-so has passed away. So I almost said Andre has passed away, but I don't want people to think that actually happened, because that would be awful.
Yeah, and that he said that you say that, and we're all just laughing about it. Like, no.
Yeah, no. Andre's great.
Yeah, no, he just has other plans, but he is still well and alive, and another thing that is good is video games. This is
Video games are mostly good. Video games are pretty good right now, I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, of a turd of a year, you know, it's nice to have some good video games in there.
There's been some really good music and some really good video games this year, despite its turdliness.
Yeah,
there has been.
In spite of itself.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, I was like a little detour. I was listening to a bunch of like old like mouth sounds albums. Like I was because I'm now into that now. And then I was in the car with my dad the other day and I heard a song that was sampled on one of those and it like threw me off completely. And I was yeah.
Whenever I hear the Ghostbusters theme, it's
okay,
never...
but Bustin' is like the best version of it though, is the thing.
Oh yeah.
I just randomly hear the Full House theme in my head, but it's the Full House. It's from the album. It's from Mouth Sounds. It's not like because of the show, because I watched that show when I was a kid, but I didn't particularly like it. But I hear the music in my head all the time because of Mouth Sounds.
And it was just like this weird, like, wait, does Dad have have Mouth Sounds on his playlist in the car? Oh no, he doesn't.
There was one time when a friend was in a car driving and listening to Hans Zimmer's Time. And at some point I just went, young men. And he did not understand.
It's really hard to explain that. It takes a lot of energy to explain that. That's very funny.
Yeah. You're like, okay, so there's this whole thing, there's this whole project. It's like mashups of songs. And
I didn't explain it.
That's almost kind of funnier though.
It's like girl talk, but good. I'm kind of kidding. Girl talk's fine.
Speaking of girl talk, but good, everybody should watch Jenny Nicholson. She's been going on a rip this year, or this month, I should say. It's great.
Jenny is just generally wonderful, and it's fun. It's fun to see where her YouTube career has gone. When I first became a fan of hers, because she was like, made some pretty staying silly videos.
Yes.
And I still think about her video of from Spider-Man Homecoming. What if Peter wasn't Spider-Man? Like I think about that video like constantly. So recommend. And
I constantly refer to Big Man with my friend. So anyways, video games.
Also, Trapped in an Island with Josh Nicholson.
Josh Hutcherson.
Josh Hutcherson, not Nicholson. Has the best twist of all time. The end.
It does.
Anyways.
The trigger warning also has a very good twist.
That twist was good. Yeah, but I just remember the first time I watched that Trapped in an Island with Josh Hutcherson video and being like, what? Broke my brain. Anyways, video games. The reason that we're ostensibly here. So, Pat, it sounds like you've been playing some video games. I can't do the segues like Andre.
I have played a couple of video games a lot and a couple of video games not as much. And one of the ones I play a lot isn't really even on this list because I play Modern Warfare a lot of nights with friends. But I also this week dug into some of the co-op stuff in Genshin Impact, which is kind of interesting. I haven't heard like a ton of people talking about the co-op side of that game. And when I first was playing it, I really liked that game a lot, but I was not clear on what the benefits of doing the co-op were going to be, because you have another player on screen, but like you can't really do the story together because you only advance the player who's the host's quests when you're in their world and you're very much visiting their world. You can pick up crafting materials when you're there, but I don't know. It didn't seem like totally worthwhile. But this week they did an event called the Elemental Crucible that requires you to play in co-op. You have to have either a full team or it match makes you with enough people to get up to 4 if you don't have a full team. And it's pretty interesting. I think that game takes on a different kind of, like when you're playing that game solo, it's very much about switching. It's about party composition and switching characters to handle combat scenarios effectively by comboing elemental attacks. It's kind of like the core of that game's combat. So when you get into a co-op scenario, it's interesting because you don't you get less characters to switch between. So if you play with 2 people, you each get 2 characters to switch between. If you play with 3 players, the host gets 2 characters and the other 2 players each get 1. And if you play with 4 players, each player gets 1. So
Interesting.
what that means is you have to kind of coordinate with your team. And I was playing with 2 friends at one point and then 1 friend at another time. And so we kind of had to coordinate, like, oh, I'm going to use this character so that you can use this character. I'm going to use the healer character or whatever, which was neat because it makes you kind of apply the lessons you've learned from playing single player to communicating with other people to achieve like solid results. And the way that this particular event works is it's not that it's particularly hard, but you want to try to do it as fast as you can. So it's kind of a time-based thing. So being able to put out the most amount of damage is really important because then you can harvest the resources that these enemies drop, and then you run those resources back to a central deposit point. And when you've collected enough of them, then the event ends, and then there's a bunch of rewards associated with it. So I thought it was kind of neat. Starting to rub up against that game's the problem with that game's free-to-playness is less the getting stuff, like getting characters, getting weapons. You get enough for free that it's not a problem, as long as you're not obsessing over collecting them all.
And you don't get hooked on the like gotcha of it all, but
right, which I kind of minorly am, but not in a way that's causing me to spend lots of money.
Right, that's not causing you to be like financially irresponsible.
No. I think I've spent like 20 to 25 bucks on that game, and I've gotten 25 hours at least out of it. So I feel pretty good about that ratio. But the thing that is a little bit frustrating that I don't have as huge an issue with it as some people in the community do, but the game does have a stamina system for collecting the rewards from certain activities. It doesn't affect your ability to play quests. The issue is that there is no way really, I mean, you sort of can, but to an extent, it's not really that easy to pause and say, nothing get any stronger. So like enemies, like as you level up, the enemies in the world get stronger. And you have to do quests to advance the world level. So theoretically, you could just hit a point in the progression where you say, okay, I'm not going to advance the world level with this quest. I'm just going to focus on doing the remaining story quests with the characters that I have at the level they are, fighting the enemies at the level they are. But there's incentive to upgrade the world level in the form of like more gacha pulls and just like getting more resources. And as the world level increases, the enemies get harder. And so then you need higher level characters and weapons to fight them. And to get the higher level characters and weapons, or to like level your characters up, you have to do specific content that is sort of like a dungeon, but it's pretty simple. And it's fun content to do because they present you like interesting combat scenarios that are very curated. And you can do this stuff co-op. So the content itself is enjoyable, but you have to pay this resin currency in order to collect the rewards that come with materials that you need to feed to your weapons and people to basically like ascend them to the next tier where you can continue to level them up. And that resin stuff is limited, so it makes it kind of frustrating, and it refills pretty slowly. Like it'll refill over the course of like 16 hours from 0, but that's not very fast. So that game might see, you can of course pay to refill it too, but it's not really worth it because it costs like I think it's like $1 to refill it. And so you don't really not refill it, sorry, to get like a third of it back. So when you're talking about
filling it,
no, so it's like, because it's like 50 primo gems, the currency to refill it, or to get 50 of the resin back that you're spending. So I'll be interested to see how that affects. It's not really making me have a bad time yet, but I can sort of see the ways that could be frustrating to deal with.
And you see the ways that they're like kind of pressuring you to pay money in a way that you hadn't seen.
And again, you could just stop at like adventure rank 30 and stop advancing your world level theoretically, and then just cap people out at like level 40 or something, and then do the story content, which we'll see may end up being what I do. But it's fun to continue to progress, right? Like the thing that the thing I really like about this game, and this is true of Warframe also, over something like Destiny or Diablo, is in this game I have my characters and I have my gear, and the gear is not like as transient. It's not stuff that I'm swapping out all the time. It's holy shit, I got this really cool sword. And in this case, it's coming from a gacha mechanic for sure. But still, I got this really cool sword, and now I'm going to focus time and energy on enhancing this weapon rather than trying to find the next sword that's slightly better. So I really like the fact that this game is about like leveling up specific weapons, and you have a set of artifacts too that are not tied to the gacha. Leveling up those specific things and leveling up my characters rather than just grinding through piles and piles of loot. But at the same time, the way that they gate the materials is a little bit frustrating. And there's cool aspects of it too. Like if you want a certain material to level up a sword, it will be available from on like 2 days of the week in a specific challenge. So it'll be like, do this domain on Tuesdays and Fridays, and you'll get these chunks of ancient metal that'll upgrade 4 out of the 8 swords you have in your inventory. And that stuff is cool, but I can see the energy becoming a little bit frustrating. And they do the classic thing where you get a bunch of free refills. So I'm sitting on like 10 of these items that will pop and give you 50 resin back. So it's not like you run out and you're totally screwed. But if you if you just use it on whatever, it kind of can screw you over. So it's one of those kind of like, I don't know if I want to get into the best strategies yet and like theory crafting the right way to use this stuff to recover resin. But still having a lot of fun with it though, playing and getting my dailies done most days. Yesterday was the first day I didn't do my dailies since the game came out, I think, because I just didn't have time until late. So yeah, still recommend it. It's shitty that that game is made in China, where there are bad restrictions on things you have to put in the game or censor from the game. So
I've heard some of the Chinese parts of it are actually very good, though. Specifically the food.
Yeah, and there's some cultural language in there that is very interesting that doesn't come across in the translation. But I think there's some interesting concepts and ideas in there from a story perspective. And I don't. This isn't meant as an excuse for the developers' censorship, because I don't think it's. That just is what it is, just bad. There's no way to like dress it up as being okay. But I do think that the story has some interesting political stuff in it that is kind of antithetical to it champions certain ideals that the Chinese government is not fond of. And I think and it continues to moving through the different regions. So I like to hope, I have no way to know, but I hope that the developers of the game are more playing by rules that they have to in order to stay safe and keep the people that work there safe. That's my hope. And at the very least, you can say HK and Taipei in the game. So
you can figure out your little ways around.
Yeah, it's better than in the one of the other games I played this week, the Black Ops Cold War beta, where you cannot use any variation of Antifa, or you can't put marks as your clan tag. Marks is considered offensive content. You can't put ACAB as your clan tag. That's considered offensive. You can't put FK12. Mine right now is F12. But you can't say anything like fuck 12. And you can, of course, say like PRDB, which I would look at and go, oh, that means Proud Boy. You can say Trump, you can say all that kind of stuff. But
God,
yeah,
that's some grossness. Like, and it's like, I think that, you know, Genshin, it's unfortunate, but like you said, they're, you know, to an extent, they're a Chinese developer, so they have to. You don't have to if you're like,
nope.
You don't have to do that. You know?
There was a Daniel Ahmad thread that was kind of buried a little bit, so it might be a little hard to find now. But he was talking a little bit about some of the Genshin censorship stuff that in a pretty informed way that I thought was interesting. But yeah, I also played some of the Black Ops Cold War beta this week. Obviously, that game is a million times more fucked for its politics and its censorship as well. I try not to use the term censorship like that because in the case of Genshin Impact, it is absolutely censorship because it is the Chinese government handing out regulations for what people can say, which is the definition of censorship. For a private developer to say, we don't want people to talk about Antifa, that's not censorship in the same way. It is certainly a form of
gross
suppressing speech, but it's also a private company doing it, and you don't have to play the video game. But that's in a way makes it more gross because it is not the government saying you can't talk about this thing. It is just them saying, no, we think this, we don't want people to talk about, we don't want people to have ANFA or ATFA as their clan tag, which is just like, get fucked. So yeah, I don't know.
Can you have Q as your clan tag?
Probably. But you can have, I couldn't find a good like QAnon thing, but you can have Anon as your clan tag. I did try that. That resolves. So, but otherwise, Call of Duty is like a weird spot for me because it's one of the kind of games that I'm pretty hypercritical of its politics, but I also, it's become a huge, my friends and I play it in a way that is very relaxing and very social. And, that's kind of been worth it to me to kind of cut through some of the shittiness of that franchise. I
mean, objectively, they're good games. Like they're well made, they're well balanced, they're polished.
Yeah, and I mean, I would go so far as to say I think Modern Warfare is probably my favorite multiplayer experience that I've had in a video game. Like, period, full stop. It is a pretty perfect shooter from a mechanical and map design and feel and maybe not balance, but nothing. There's like no perfectly balanced shooters aside from like Team Fortress 2 and Counter-Strike that have been in development for the last 20 years. So, or more. So,
Quake 3, baby.
Yeah. So the Cold War beta seems like it's kind of maintaining the course of it'll be a good game. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as Modern Warfare. From what I have played of it, doesn't have quite the same fluidity and feel that Modern Warfare has, but it kind of makes up for that by being a pretty nice refresh of all the maps. The maps are very cool in it. There are they've carried the UI is almost identical in the menus to Modern Warfare. There's a lot of stuff that they just took. They took the gunsmith from Modern Warfare completely, which is fine because it's good. The way you can modify guns in Modern Warfare is incredible. So the fact that they're doing that for Cold War is good. But then on the ground, it feels a little bit, the movement feels a little clunky, doesn't feel like the right term, but you can feel every footstep, which is just not really true. And you're very fluid in Modern Warfare, but in Black Ops, it's very much like step, 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 step.
That seems like such a downgrade from Blops 3, which actually felt really good. And it was really fast and you had like double jumps and wall runs. Like it was very influenced by Titanfall.
Yeah, I think that people don't like that. I liked it. I thought that was cool.
Too. Yeah.
I think Modern Warfare, in a weird way, even though it's supposed to be the realistic one, kind of achieves that more because the sliding and jumping is very fluid in that game. It leads to problems of people will do like, there's a very, very frustrating strategy where people come around a corner and jump, which just looks ridiculous and isn't like... It's not fun because it's like, oh, I want to play. They basically want to like make the placement of their head unpredictable as they come around a corner. It's not really bunny hopping, but it's still frustrating. So I don't hate that they've gone to a bit more clunky feel with the movement, and I don't want to oversell that. It's not like it feels terrible or something. It's not like it's totally different, but it's definitely noticeable if you've played a lot of Modern Warfare, which I have. And then some of the character designs, it feels like the hitboxes are smaller than they are in Modern Warfare. Sometimes it feels really hard to hit people in
like
Cold War.
Job is in this game.
Yeah. And some of the iron sights, like the default assault rifle you first get, the sights on it take up like almost the entire screen, so it's impossible to see anything. So there's definitely some like differences, but I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's enjoyable to play. My friends and I are excited. We're not like, oh no, this is such a downgrade. There's a lot of people on Reddit that are complaining about it. There's also the eternally hilarious argument to me about skill-based matchmaking, which is
so dumb.
It's such a stupid part of the reason that Modern Warfare is such an incredible experience and so frictionless is that it has a really great skill-based matchmaking solution. So pretty much every game ends up being relatively close, and there are outliers, of course. There are some games where their stuff goes crazy, but
for context, skill-based matchmaking is exactly what you think it is. It is matchmaking you based on your skill level. If you are a good player, you will be matched with other good players. If you are a bad player, you'll be matched with other like not skilled players. And Blops Cold War implements that system, and old games did not. And people are livid because now they can't stomp.
Except that old games did too. I don't remember specifically which ones, but there was a designer from Infinity Ward who talked about how it was in, I want to say Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 and one of the other Infinity Ward Call of Duties. The thing is, like, SBMM has had an impact in the past. It's just that they tuned it differently for Modern Warfare, so it was more prevalent, I guess, or you felt it more. And it's, I mean, what it does is it just prevents what people want is they want to do the thing that you used to be able to do in the original Modern Warfare and in games like Quake that have like servers where they go in and just stomp people and they go 40-2 and they're the best. And
they go to servers marked for noobs. And they destroy them.
And skill-based matchmaking makes that impossible to do, which is great, but it makes those people very vocal on the internet and have a total meltdown. There's one that I don't know. I don't really follow streamers that closely, but I know of Courage, kind of.
The Cowardly Dog?
No, he's a 100 Thieves streamer and player.
I definitely thought about the Cowardly Dog when you said that. So
I don't know him. He's always come off as a little bit of like a little full of himself to me, and he did this tweet about like how that this is SBMM is killing Call of Duty as a franchise. It's not enjoyable to play anymore. Nobody likes it. Everyone hates it, and he just is depressed because he can't enjoy it the way he used to. And it's like, it's because the dude plays for 8 hours a day. It's his job, and it gets him more viewers if he gets like 100 kill streaks and stuff. Like it's just absurd to me that these people like can't see it from the perspective of a person who plays it for an hour or two every night, who that's still a lot of time to put into the game, but you know, I don't want to play with pro players.
Totally.
And it's funny because people do these huge long threads where they complain about like, I have to use the meta weapons, otherwise I just get destroyed. And my friends and I don't do that at all. We play with like all kinds of weird shit and always have a good time. So it's very funny to me that's still people are having a meltdown about it. So Cold War, the reception will be interesting to see critically versus fan wise. I think it's going to get a very tepid fan response and probably it's good response from critics that are into Call of Duty, because it's definitely not as good as Modern Warfare.
Yeah, fair enough.
The one thing that it does have that I really, there's a lot of things that I like about it that I think there's some places that I think it even improves. But one thing that I super love is that there are, they don't have teams for the characters anymore. you pick an operator and it's like a skin. It's not really like, it doesn't have any abilities or anything. And in Modern Warfare, they divide them into two teams, the Allegiance and the Coalition. In Black Ops, they're just all, there's no teams. So everyone can play as Frank Woods on the whole server, and there can be a team full of Frank Woods on the Soviet side and a team full of Frank Woods on the CIA side. And it's very funny.
That's fantastic.
People are complaining about I saw a thread about someone complaining about how it ruins the immersion of the game and it ruins the feel of the Cold War era to have Frank Woods be a communist. And I was like, yes, the Cold War, the gritty, realistic Cold War era, where famously massive gun battles between KGB and Soviet operatives broke out on the streets of Miami. Like, the game is like very ridiculous. That's part of why this game in particular, you're going to see a lot of people like talking about how it has shitty politics, and I certainly don't disagree with that. I mean, Black Ops kind of has had that in the past. You do things like just go into Cuba and kill Castro in the first game. So it's certainly not a shiny. It's a pretty shitty look at the sort of stuff that the United States does, or fantasizes about shitty stuff the United States could be doing. What I will say though is that it is also so absurd that I would not waste too much of your emotion on hating it, because it's really fucking out there. From the outside looking in, they always frame it as like gritty and realistic. It's always completely off the wall and absurd. This game's gonna have probably have you parachuting out of a plane to save Ronald Reagan's life, which is unfortunate.
I would not be surprised, but
not a route that I'd go. But what we can hope for is at the end of the first game, it is heavily implied, spoilers for the almost 15-year-old Black Ops 1, it is heavily implied that your character is the person who shoots JFK. So
what?
So
excuse me,
this is supposedly a direct sequel to that, so we can only hope that you get activated. There's a mission where you have to take out Reagan.
Wonderful.
God, okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
I had no idea that was an element of this game.
Oh yeah, you're like, it's all like, that's why I like Black Ops, even though it's kind of fucked, is that there's like number stations and shit, and it's all about you like getting programmed by Soviet operatives, and you have to go to it has flashbacks to World War II, wherein you meet and engage with characters from Call of Duty World at War, Treyarch's first Call of Duty game from like right after Black Ops. Or right after Modern Warfare. It's like the original Modern Warfare. It's wild. It goes all over the place. So that part is entertaining.
It's bizarre.
Yes, it's very bizarre. Frank Woods yells "fuck" all the time, like really angrily. In Modern Warfare, you have Price, who is like, ooh, I shouldn't like military people, soldiers that commit war crimes, but oh man, Price, if he could just be my military dad, I like Price. And then you got Frank Woods. Mustache. He's got a sick mustache, and he's funny when he does a lot of funny little verbal things here and there, and anyway, he gets his hands dirty so the world's hands can stay clean. But Frank Woods is kind of the opposite, and it's just like screams "fuck" all the time. There's a clip from the recent Zombies reveal for Cold War where Frank Woods is just running backwards, unloading an assault rifle into zombies, going "fuck, fuck, 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 fuck." It's very stupid.
I mean, honestly, if there are zombies around me, that seems pretty reasonable.
Totally. I appreciate that. That's the most realistic thing I've seen in the game. That's how I would react too. But yeah.
What's the name of that game where it's just constant sweat? Rogue Warrior. Is he at Rogue Warrior levels of fucking? I
think Rogue Warrior might be more fucked than Black Ops from a politics and.
Oh, I wasn't even talking politics.
No, I know, but like from a politics and like in like ridiculous language perspective, I think Rogue Warrior might be worse. But I'll tell you, I won't spend too much time on these other two things so other people can talk. But a game that does not have SBMM is is the Spooktacular Dead by Daylight, which it is the season for spooky games. Season. And spooky games where you brutally stab people and then grab them and put them on meat hooks and then manipulate their teammates into not being able to save their life, which is what I do in Dead by Daylight because I like to play as the bad guy. But I every few months I go on like a Dead by Daylight kick and play it for a couple weeks. They had a new character come out relatively recently. It's like this scary alchemist guy. I don't know what he does. I bought him. I like to buy their new characters when they come out because they're like $5 to $10 every 3 months. Or you can do what my friends are doing and go, oh, I want to play as all these cool characters, and there's $140 in DLC if I want to get them all.
Oh my god!
Because they put out a new character. They put out 2 to 4 characters per year, and they're all like $5 to $10, which is totally reasonable. The game's only $20. It's not like it's they're not really gouging people, but when you add it all up, it starts to become a little expensive.
Yeah.
They recently put crossplay. Actually, it's like 2 months ago. I didn't realize it, but put crossplay in that game with other consoles. So it was already popular on PC, so it wasn't hard to find matches. But now it's kind of like solidified its future, I guess. I think because it means it'll always be easy to get a match, which is cool to me because I love asymmetric multiplayer games, and this one is like one that seems safe to invest time in because these kinds of games usually die fairly quickly, but this one's held on, which is cool. I've been going a little bit deeper in the blood web, which is their progression
Allison,
system.
What do you think the blood web is? Like what is the physical manifestation of the blood web?
I'm just imagining like kind of like gelatinous blood in a web shape, but I know that's not what it is.
Like a spider that just makes a web out of blood.
Spider that has some health issues, and we need to be nice to that spider.
It's just a menu with some icons on it. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it was cooler, but every character.
I wish you could too.
Yeah.
Every character it's very cool what it does. Every character, the killers and the survivors alike have a blood web, and it's like basically like randomized progression that happens where there's nodes on each level. There's like nodes on it, and you spend the like kind of unified currency for progression that you get for playing games and for doing dailies and stuff. It's not you can't pay for it.
Is the currency NPM?
No, it's called blood shards.
Okay. It's a node joke. All the programmers in the room are going wild. Woo!
They should make a killer that's a programmer that gets mad and starts killing people. You get this currency, and then you put points into these nodes, and they unlock new perks and new offerings and add-ons for your equipment and stuff. And some of that stuff is consumable. So when you hit level 50, you can like wrap back around to the beginning and start it over, like kind of prestige, if you will. But what's interesting is when you get to higher levels of the blood web for each character, they have teachable perks that
blood web just sounds so cool.
I know, it is cool. When you unlock them, then they can show up in other characters' blood webs. So like,
what?
Yeah, so like the unique perks that Michael Myers comes with, once you max him out, you'll have unlocked his perks so that now other killers can get access to them. So it's pretty cool, and it gives you like an incentive to switch characters and level up everybody because they all have teachable perks that can then pop up in other people's inventories. And the perks are really one of the things that blows my mind about that game. That is why like I would never have assumed it would be a game of the year type of game in 2016, but it's a relatively simple game. So like you have the 4 survivors. They're trying to turn on a set of generators in a map and then open the door to escape. That's that's the mechanic for them. They have a bunch of tools. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just curious. So you're saying that, okay, if you max out Michael Myers, you get these perks that some other character can learn. Does that fuck with the balance? Because you might see that like this person is playing as Freddy or whatever, or Jason, or I don't know who else is in there at this point, but like, and then suddenly they're pulling out a Michael Myers perk, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know he could do that.
So it's because of the way that the perks work. It's not as substantial as you would think. So I was gonna pull up the list of what his teachables are, but basically, like, to for an understanding of how the game works, it's like you have those 4 survivors that are trying to turn on generators. They can carry med kits, they can carry toolboxes that speed up the generators, they can carry a fucking flashlight, which is very frustrating because it blinds you as the killer. And then they have a set of different modifiers that they're setting on. As a killer, you have an attack which can have different range, recovery time. The run speed of each killer is unique, and then the killer will have generally like a passive ability that is unique to them, and then some kind of active mechanic, and their active power is like the thing. I've been playing a lot of the Trapper, so he puts down bear traps, so people step in them, and then I get a notification of where they are, and then can go and get them. And if they haven't gotten out of the bear trap by the time I get there, then I pick them up, put them on a meat hook. Because for the killer, all of your goals are to knock people down with your weapon and then carry them to one of these sacrificial effigy things and stick them on there. And their friends can come and rescue them from those things. Or if a timer ticks down, they just die. So as a killer, and you're kind of incentivized not to just sit and camp them, because while you're sitting there watching them, the rest of the survivors can run around and turn on all the generators. So it's like there's some push pull. You got to kind of like strategize as to how you want to make sure that the people that you're knocking out die, as well as go around and get the other people and stop the generators. So with that in mind, the teachable perks for Michael Myers. I'm going to read one. This is going to come off as very crazy, but like Michael Myers has a teachable perk called Dying Light, which is funny because that's also a video game.
I was going to say, are there like zombies and the kind of...
I picked this one out of the 3 that each character has 3 to 4 teachable perks. I think it's 3 to 4, maybe it's just 3. So Michael Myers has a perk called Dying Light that says you become obsessed with one survivor. So that just means it randomly gives you one survivor that you're obsessed with at the beginning of the game. Your obsession gains a 33% action speed bonus to unhooking and healing other survivors. Each time you hook a survivor that is not the obsession and the obsession is alive, gain a token. If the obsession is alive, all other survivors gain a stackable 2, 2.5, or 3% penalty, depending on the level of the perk, to repair, healing, and sabotage speed for each token. So it's like kind of crazy stuff like that. That what that means is that if you gain token, if you leave your obsession alive and keep hooking the other people, then it makes it progressively harder for the other characters to perform actions, while the single obsession character gets a bonus. So yes, it can kind of fuck with balance, but it's not things like, you do double damage. It's not stuff that's as simple as that. It's pretty complex mechanical stuff that leads to very small bumps either way that can definitely make the difference in a game like this that is so simple. But it's interesting, and it's fun to see those perks and like see the ways that the math fits together, and I enjoy it quite a bit. The other thing that they have that's neat is they have the game has a bunch of lore, and it's kind of a varying quality, but I like it because I like horror, even if it's kind of shitty. And this isn't shitty either. It's also not like some kind of profound thing that's hidden out there on Steam. But you have these like another web of objectives that you can complete to unlock lore dumps. And
hell yeah.
So some of them are hard. Like I have the mission I'm on right now is you have to kill someone when the overtime timer is going, which I like. At one point last night, I had it, and then a group of survivors did this extremely frustrating tactic where they body blocked me. They rescued their friend and then they body blocked me and then I knocked him down again and they body blocked me from being able to put him on the hook. So like then he was able to escape my grasp and get away because it was right by the exit door. And that was like, I got really mad. But having those like extra objectives to unlock lore is fun too. There's like 4 books so far of lore that you can go through, and each has 4 chapters, and each chapter has like 25 challenges. So it's pretty extensive. They have challenges for survivors and killers. And when they unlock a new book for that like month, it's like a battle pass too, where as you complete the challenges, you gain currency on basically a battle pass line. Which is kind of a neat way to do it because you can always go back and unlock the lore entries from past like books, or if you play the current book, then you get battle pass rewards for cosmetics and stuff. Because all the characters have different weapons and masks and stuff that you can do that are just cosmetic. So yeah, I don't know. It's a fun game. It's very grim. Obviously it's very gory and violent and stuff. You're like putting down bear traps to capture teens running in the woods, and there's a Silent Hill level that is genuinely creepy to play as the killer or survivor, because there's like Silent Hill monsters in chains and cages around it that are like rattling around and stuff trying to escape, which is very spooky. But you can play as Pyramid Head now, which is sick. So yeah, Dead by Daylight's good. It's good for this time of year. I think they have a free week, or no, they don't have. It was last month. They might have a free weekend coming up because there's a new like battle pass starting. That's another thing they're unique about, is they only have battle passes like every couple of months. They don't have them running all the time. So you don't always feel like you have to work to play. And the last thing I did, 2020's game of the year, finally out now. I played the tutorial for RuneScape.
Never been released before.
Wait,
yeah.
So you're saying the game of the year is the tutorial for RuneScape?
No, it's not. RuneScape is interesting. I don't know. It's worth playing that tutorial because it's weird. RuneScape is a weird game. I might actually play a little bit more of it to be able to talk about it a little bit more because it's interesting. But it's very adventure gamey. That's something I never realized about it, in that there's lots of like click this item and then click this item and it combines it in your inventory. A lot of the like cooking, which is central to the game, is like, well, you combine the bowl with the flour, and then you click on the bowl of flour, and click on the sink, and then you have dough, and then you click on the dough in your inventory, and then you click on the oven, and then you put the dough in the oven, and now you're making bread. It's weird. And the combat is like, you click on the rat with knife equipped, and then you kill it.
Does it feel like a 20-year-old game?
Some of its concepts are very interesting and I think pretty timeless. The thing I hate about it is when you click, it's like, that feels like a 20-year-old game. When you click to move, it's like, okay, you move your mouse to a spot on the map, you click, and then your character goes, I guess I should move there, and then starts running. It's like a very long delay from when you click to when they start moving.
Does it feel like the delay is because it's sending that to a server somewhere?
It just feels like the way the game is supposed to work. Like, it just feels like the way it's designed. It feels like it feels like The Sims in that way, kind of. But in The Sims, it's fine because you're queuing up like 4 different actions. So if your sim is ever standing still, it's just whatever. But it's just like in The Sims, how you click a spot and hit go here, and then your sim kind of like leisurely strolls over. In RuneScape, it just is like, man, if I had direct control and could just WASD around, I would be having a much better time. It's funny because the perspective is very similar to Baldur's Gate 3, and Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have that problem at all. You just click and your character starts moving. So it's odd to me that RuneScape has that kind of delay, but maybe it is because it's built to be an MMO. So they're building in a certain amount of like, not input lag, but because you can see that where your click registers, you can see the like go here thing right away. Just takes a really long time for your character to start running. So it's a game.
I have no experience or opinions on RuneScape.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I have like slight nostalgia, but it's more slight nostalgia about the fact that it exists, if that makes sense.
Same,
Yeah,
I guess.
I feel like I must have played it in a browser at some point.
Yeah, I know I definitely did, but I was never like obsessed with it.
And I don't remember anything about playing it, but I think it's an interesting thing to take a look at. It's a very small download and it's free, so it's worth kind of, it's just weird that it's on Steam now. And technically I didn't realize this is RuneScape 3. This is like, they just call it RuneScape, but it's like version 3 point something. So it's like the third iteration of the game. And I'll say it actually kind of looks okay. It has some nice lighting and stuff in it. It's interesting. It looks very stylized, but it doesn't look shitty. It just looks like very stylized visuals. So I don't know. It's interesting to check out. I think it's worth playing the tutorial island because it's just weird.
Cool.
Very
That's
cool.
all I got. That's my dump of games. My game dump.
Game dump, man.
I don't suspect I'll have
Let's
any
time travel back 3 years and call this podcast the Game Dump.
I'm playing a little
Featuring
bit
a jump in the dark.
I don't have thoughts on it yet, really, but I'm playing a little bit of Noita as well because that hit 1.0 this week. So I'll have that next week for more substantial 1.0 talk.
Sure.
Rad. Alex, I know that you had some gaming in there. I don't know how much you want to talk about it this week, but
not much. It's just continuations on what I've been playing for the past month, basically. Like, did a little bit of Final Fantasy 14. Not a lot. Just I haven't had much time. This week was very busy at work. And then have gotten way deeper into Umineko, which has been kind of buck wild. I think I'm very interested in where that game ends up going, is what all I'll say. Is it's kind of a love letter to old like murder mysteries, like or just mystery novels like your Agatha Christie's of the world, and like even Hardy Boys or like Nancy Drew, if you want to go into that kind of stuff. Like it's puzzle solving theoretical situations, like going through a bunch of like mind games and being like, oh, but what if the killer did this, blah 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 blah, kind of stuff, and like coming up with evidence for it. So it's got some Danganronpa in there. It's got some Ace Attorney in there.
You sent me this a screenshot of the game that was straight out of Ace Attorney, and I love it.
So it's got all those influences, but it's also got some supernatural elements in it. So those throw a wrench in the works. It's like, yeah, a human could do this, but what if they weren't human? It's like, okay, but what are the limits of this non-human? What could they possibly do? And it's like, it just throws everything into like this weird chaos, which makes it really interesting. So yeah, I finished the second episode of it. There are 7 episodes and I am 30 hours in. So it seems like each one is about 15 hours. So I still have about 60 hours of that game left probably, which will not be done by next week, but probably maybe the week after if I'm diligent. And other than that, I had been working on a little article. I'm still working on it. I mentioned it last week very briefly. And it is all about crunch. It's all about the industry, the software development industry, and also game development industry in particular, and crunch within it. And ironically enough, I got pulled away from it because we were doing a crunch at work this week. But it's been interesting because in writing it, I've been talking with a bunch of other developers about crunch, just saying like, hey, I'm writing this thing, and like, these are some of the examples I've come up with. Can you think of any? And they are immediately like, oh yeah, also this, also this, also that. Like, I had a hour-long talk with my direct manager about crunch and time management and resource management and all that kind of stuff, because he used to work not for a game developer, but for a studio or a developer that used Unity and used it to make medical software. And like a lot of those people came out of the game industry too. And he's like, yeah, the game industry is like, that's the mentality that those people all had is crunch, 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 like constantly. Like that's what you have to do. That's the way stuff gets done. And he was baffled by it. So yeah, so this article is still being written. I'm pulling in some quotes from other people, other developers. I hope to get it done sometime soon, but we'll see depending on how intense stuff stays.
It's pretty big undertaking, so
Yeah, I haven't done a word count on it yet. It's probably around at least 1,500 words right now, and it's not even close to done. So it's going to be a big article. So look forward to that, I guess. I'll try and pare it down a bit so it's a bit more readable, but that's it for me. I have not had a gaming week. It was just too much work.
Oh, yeah, I totally get that. So I have played a couple of games this week. One that I'm not going to get into, but I hit credits on Hades, so that was exciting.
Yay.
And I still played a bunch of it this week after hitting credits. So that game has its hooks in me. But the one thing that kind of has pulled me away from Hades has been Cook Serve Delicious 3, which hit 1.0 a couple days ago. Yeah, so that is... I don't know if you guys have much experience with that franchise, but I've been playing it since the first one. And have been a fan of it since then. And I think I talked a little bit about the when it was in early access earlier this year. But
if I remember correctly, just going off of what you said about it earlier this year, it's food truck based, right?
It is. It's okay. So the thing that is interesting about Cook Serve Delicious is that it is very lightly post-apocalyptic. In that is set in the near future, in like the 20, 30 years from now. And it's set in a kind of like vaguely post-war stuff, but it's like more, that's more kind of window dressing. But now, yeah, you are in a food truck as opposed to being in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. So everything is really based off of the stops you go to. So each day that you play in the game, it's basically you set up the different food items that you have for that day. And you'll have a specific amount of time before you get to a stop where it says, hey, there's 2 miles, there's things counting down, and you can set up different foods. So there's 2 different really like variety of foods. There's the special orders, which basically only come in between stops. So and then there's also the ones that are the like kind of mass prepared foods. So those are the ones that are coming in pretty constantly. So it is still a pretty dang tough game. Like I would probably suggest if you're interested in playing it and you've never played a Cook Serve Delicious, there's a chill mode, which I think has gives the customers max patience. I would suggest either doing that or going back and playing the first Cook Serve Delicious and seeing if you like that before jumping into 3. Because this game goes from like a food truck 0 to 60 real fast.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not intend that until I said like halfway through. Yeah, but it is. Yeah, I think that's really the appeal of it as a game. Whereas you have other kind of cooking games like the Cooking Mama series where they're a lot more kind of chill. This is like, no, you're running a restaurant that is the opposite of chill, in kind of a fun way. So basically you have like 8 different, or at least I currently have like 8 spots open for people to be asking food, and they're kind of constantly people are constantly asking you for food, and they're constantly ticking down in terms of patience, and you have to like fulfill all of these orders really, really quickly. So it is a very, very stressful game at a point, but it kind of vaguely reminds me of kind of the feeling of getting really into the zone with something like a Tetris, where once you're in the zone and you're just playing it at really high speeds, it is very, very satisfying, which is fun.
It's got that flow.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I got like, there have been a couple of times where I've gotten into this point where I've been playing it and I'm like, I've got this, it's good. But then also you have times where you if you mess up, you're like, oh God, it's all completely falling apart too. So it's
funny. That game feels like it's nothing at all like this when you look at what's happening on the screen. But if you just watch somebody's hands while they're playing Cook Serve Delicious at like a kind of like mid to high level, your hands do the same stuff that they do in a MOBA, which is very funny because you're hitting like the number keys and like QWERTY keys to trigger different actions with like different steps of the food preparation process, and you're hitting them in specific order, and like sometimes omitting certain things. And it's funny because and then you're like clicking on a different part of the menu or whatever. And it's just funny. I noticed it when I was playing Cook Serve Delicious 1 earlier this year, that it's like, wow, my hands are doing the same stuff they do in MOBAs. It's not like the game is like that at all. This has nothing in common with that genre.
You don't have a hot dog alt.
But it does have that same kind of set of hand motions.
That's so interesting.
It's really funny.
Yeah. It gets to the point where everything just becomes almost unconscious to a certain point.
Yeah.
Where like I was I've actually been playing this on Switch, even though, which is weird because I've played all the other games on PC, and I'm so used to it. But I was just like, I'll give the additional money and get it on my Switch. But there just gets to be the point where you're just like, you vaguely see an order and you just do a bunch of quick motions, and you're like, I didn't even think about that. And you start like, it all became coming really, really unconscious in kind of a fun way of, okay. Yeah. And this one has some fun because of the food truck aspect and because of the like making food in advance aspect of it. One of the things that they've added in this game is they've added some additional characters who are robots, one who drives the truck and one who kind of helps you either by like defending you, because sometimes these food trucks attack you, which is like a very, very minor thing. And then also in serving food, which you can automatically serve anything that is ready and doesn't need your input by just moving the right stick on the Switch. So it's just very satisfying to be able to like flick that, and then suddenly like eight things are served at once. Like there's a real satisfaction. Like I feel like I was trying to think of how to describe why I like it so much, and I feel like it's like kind of making a false sense of competency, if that makes sense.
Well, you get good at it, right? Like it's a game that your skill level improves as you play it, and it's palpable.
Right, and like there's the thing that's kind of interesting about this one too is that all of the foods have different difficulty levels, going from 0 to 4 based off of how much variation there is, how much input you have to put into it. And all of them are related to the foods in an interesting way too, because I think the thing that was tricky for me with 2 is a lot of the foods felt really kind of samey to make. And this is pretty much the same in that you're basically doing the same button presses for every single food thing you're making. But they all kind of react in different ways. So for example, like if you're making a souffle in this game, like you have very simple button presses, but the thing that ramps up its difficulty is that your timing has to be a lot better in terms of getting it cooked. Like it, and there are certain items that you can make in bulk, but they degrade a lot faster. Like salads often kind of degrade faster because they get gross quicker. Right. So, it's a lot of the things are pretty samey to make in terms of like what you're actually doing, but the strategy is really based around the food itself, which I think is pretty fun too. And then also there's strategy in what kinds of foods you're going to put on there on your menu. And there are times where you put a food on your item and on your menu and you go, oh God, that was a mistake to put that on my menu. Like, for some reason, burgers keep throwing me off in this particular version, even though in previous ones it hadn't. So there's just like all these like little layers of strategy that you have to kind of keep in mind, which I think is really appealing. And what makes me a fan of the series.
So was there any major differences between the early access version and 1.0? Like, did they add something significant at 1.0?
Not that I've noticed. I played a decent amount of the early access of it, but I kind of stopped because I was like, okay, I'm going to play more of it when it hits 1.0. But I think it was more of that they added additional content, because basically since it's a food truck, you're moving from place to place and there's different areas you can do. And there's a bit more, I think it's kind of like the culmination of 1 and 2 in a lot of ways, because while there's a lot of freedom, there's also, you go to a different place and it says, hey, here are the foods that we think that this group of people are going to like. You need to have a menu that has at least 8 points of difficulty on it. And you add it up. So I think they've added a lot more kind of those kinds of challenges and areas. And also one of the things that you can do, and I don't even remember if it was there in the early access when I played it, is there's a lot of like stuff where you can upgrade your truck and you can do cosmetic stuff with your truck as well. So that's been fun as well.
I saw some people like demanding refunds because there's like, I want to say Black Lives Matter stuff you can put on your food truck, which is awesome. And there was a like, this game is forcing a social justice angle down my throat. It's
and
like,
the dev who's great, and I follow on Twitter. He's just like, bye.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The Cooks Are Delicious games have always been super diverse and had like interesting stuff like that in them. I don't know why people are surprised.
And that's one of the things that's I think makes the game really fun, is that there's a lot of really diverse food in there, from like a wide variety of different cultures and different food traditions. But then also, like, that was so stupid because, like, let's be honest, well, A, that's a good thing to have in your game, but B, it is so like, it is such like a minor thing. Like you can buy a cosmetic that you can put like in your little window on the, like, while you're playing the game, so that you see that you really, it's such like a minor addition. I've done like a little bit of the customizing, and I have like I have a pride flag in there, and I have like the two robots have like little dolls that I bought, and it's like there happens to be a Black Lives Matter banner, which is great. And it's like people are being like, this is too political for me. I'm like, God.
What's funny is that even in the first game, in like emails you get and like some of the jokes and the little like tiny bits of narrative and lore stuff in the first game, there's all kinds of like weird little political jokes and stuff. Yeah. So it's very clear what the developers' politics have been since the first game.
The beginning. So
I don't know why now people are surprised and upset about it. I guess maybe it was more cheeky early on, so it was a little less direct, but I don't know. I thought that was funny.
It was very, very weird to see that. But yeah, and that's that kind of that was very, very weird. But I do think that that's one of the things that's really good about the game, is that it's as the games have grown, they've gotten a lot more foods, and they're trying to like, there's a lot of food in there that I have straight up never heard of, and now I'm like, dang, I really want to go eat that food. Yeah. And I'm like, how do I go do that? Because I don't know any place that serves it. But it's like it really kind of introduces you to a lot of different like ideas and foods, and
they make the food look really good too.
Oh my God, that is the issue with this game.
It's not quite to the level of Yakuza or Final Fantasy 15 to me, not quite, but it's close.
Well, but that's the thing with that though, is that like Yakuza food looks really, really good, but that's not like the entire thing you're doing in the game.
Right.
Like you're going off and like fighting stuff, you're doing karaoke, you're doing whatever other bullshit you're doing in that Yakuza, in your Yakuza game. But with this, you're literally cooking all the time. And the other day I made myself dinner and I was like, okay, I'm going to play. So I've eaten dinner. I'm not hungry. So this is the perfect time to play Cook Serve Delicious 3. And then I still like, God damn, I want to eat all this food, which is not what I wanted. But, you know, that is my criticism, is that game makes me want to go out and get a bunch of different foods. So, yeah, so I totally recommend it though. Like I said, I think I'd recommend 1 first, because this game like goes off roaring in terms of difficulty, but also you can also do chill mode for a while until you get kind of used to it. And also you can practice with every single food. So whenever I get a new food, I just kind of do a bunch of different practice runs of it so that I kind of have it in my hands before I actually put it into a menu. So, all right. The other game that I'm bringing, and I don't know how much I want to talk about it because I want to give it another go, is Ikenfell or Ikenfell. I don't know how it's pronounced. Ikenfell.
Like the pixel art kind of top down wizard RPG. RPG.
Yeah. So it's basically it just came out I think like a day before last week's podcast. So it came out like about a week ago. And it's a game where it's basically an RPG where you're a character going to a wizard school, or you're not like a student at the wizard school, but you've gone to the school because you stopped hearing back from your sister who's a student there, and you're like, what's going on? So I need to go investigate. So there's like a whole story about what's going on with there. This isn't really spoilers because you get it like literally like 5 minutes into the game. You have like a different type of magic than people kind of know about. And so the game is that, but then also the battles are really kind of a tactics RPG with kind of like button presses, like in either like a Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi, where you have the action buttons, and that helps depend how much damage you do, or possibly limit how much damage you take. And then also with the strategy tactics element, you're kind of constantly moving around and dealing with the positioning of where your characters are versus where the enemies are, and dealing with that. So the reason that I don't know how much I want to talk about it right now is I really thought I would like this game a lot more than I am, which I feel like on paper, this is basically exactly my shit in terms of it's a like, the story sounds great. Like there's a lot of diverse characters. Like one of the first characters you meet is non-binary and uses they them pronouns, which is great. The tactics gameplay, I like the idea of it, but I was just like, I don't know if the gameplay is quite there. And I don't know if the story is really gripping me as of yet. So it's a game that I kind of put down for a little bit, and I'm going to hopefully go back to and give it another go. Because it just has a lot of good elements to it. And it's a game that I think that, you know, you should give a shot, because there's so many different reasons why I think it's good. But at the same time, like, I just don't know why I'm not clicking with it.
That makes sense.
It was like weirdly frustrating, like making me kind of like upset earlier this week of like, why is this game not clicking with me? And I don't know why. It was just like, there's just so many elements to it, why it feels like it should be something I love, and it hasn't clicked yet. But I think it's interesting at the very least. and it's something that I'm glad exists for sure. And hopefully we can get more games that are like this, so that there's less reason for people to care about any sort of Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
between this and that Witchbrook, which is the Chucklefish magic game, like let's just
rest in peace, Broomstick League.
Yeah, seriously.
But like hopefully get more like Magic School games, so that people are just like, why would I care about a Harry Potter game? So yeah, so I think it's neat. It's just not really clicking with me, and hopefully maybe some time away and jumping back in would be. So does anybody have anything else they want to bring right away, or?
I have an important update that it turns out that on mobile, the Blood Web is called the Blood Market, which is pretty sick in more ways than one. That's all, though. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pepper jack cheese. It's pretty good.
It is good.
Yeah.
It's very good. My favorite cheese is a sharp white cheddar, I think.
Yeah, I have some cheese in my fridge that I just got. It like a sharp cheddar is really, I feel like, underrated, because a lot of people talk about cheddar being kind of like basic.
Yeah.
But this cheese is like super good, and if you could find cheese that has like those like calcium crystals in it.
Oh yeah.
That's good stuff.
Wow. The thick sliced aged white cheddar is good to me because it's like super adaptable. You can put that on an omelet. You can put it on like a sandwich. You can put it on a burger. You can put it
plain.
Yeah, or you can just eat it. Yeah. There's so many uses for aged. I mean, because like I love a feta and I love like ricotta and mozzarella, but they're more specific, and the fact that cheddar can just kind of go anywhere is it's good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, cheese fix. I am also a fan of a brie, but
you know, it's funny, I don't like brie because I was in France and I was getting you can just get like really delicious cheese sandwiches at like every street vendor, like every food cart. You can just get a 3 or 4 cheese sandwich, and brie is always one of them. And I ate so many of those because they were so good. It's like a toasted baguette with cheeses on it. Mm-hmm. And brie was kind of the flavor that the cheese that I most associated with them. That was kind of the one that the flavor came through the most on. And because I ate them so much for the month that I was in France, I like can't. Now I just like brie like kind of makes me a little bit nauseated
because you just ate so much of it. No, I
don't know why
get that
happened, but now I don't like brie.
So sad.
Yeah, I think I could recover my taste for brie if I put my mind to it.
Yeah, no, I sometimes you do get to that point where you've overdone it, but
yeah.
But I brie and crackers is like still one of my favorite foods or snacks.
Imagine if we had named this podcast Game Dump, and then we could have had a cheese dump.
Gross. No, thank you. Like, you say this, and then now I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that we didn't name our podcast Game Dump.
There's a skin called Mr. Bing Bong.
Oh no!
Dead by Daylight.
Is it from Inside Out?
No, it's not. I wouldn't put this in a children's movie.
Okay. Allison,
yeah.
Have you seen this giant news section we have?
I have. I've been trying to figure out how we get to this news section. So,
speaking of dumps.
So another inside baseball about our Gaming Fix notes. We have a section where we have news, where you can kind of add your own news. right now there's only one piece of news.
Alex's news this week.
Alex's news, which he said earlier this week, this is the only news we're bringing. And the joke has gone on for several days at this point, which is that Keita Takahashi has learned the English word crotch. So.
Yeah, he has. I love that was his whole tweet. It was basically, I have learned the English word for crotch. And that was all he said.
It was. And he's like, all right. And for people who don't know, like Keita Takahashi, God, fuck. I saw a reply he sent to himself. He's done stuff like Katamari Damacy.
Yeah.
And he replied to that original tweet, which said, I said crotch in the meeting today, and it worked perfectly.
I gotta try that. That on Monday. Monday meeting. I gotta try saying crotch and see what happens.
You say the word crotch.
Hello, everyone. Crotch. What have you been working on this week? Crotch.
Crotch dump.
Yeah, I'm taking a crotch dump.
No.
Oh, that's the word for peeing.
I know. It's terrible.
No.
Taking a crotch dump.
No, I hate this.
I have updated our news section with the actual news this week, but I did like that Keita Takahashi made a whole thing about
Crotches.
Yeah.
crotches.
The exact tweet is, a new English word that I learned today is crotch. And it's like, that's it.
That's all.
It's a good word.
Keita Takahashi.
It's a good word. And,
he's a gem.
Mm-hmm.
He is a gem. He's made some good games, and hope he keeps making good games.
People are asking if crotches are going to be in Watam now.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It would not surprise me at all. Anywho, rest of the news. Let's see. So the first one we have is that the Modern Warfare is going to receive the ability to uninstall parts of the game. So can somebody explain what that means?
Yeah, so this is actually going to feature on console for a little bit, but they finally added it to the PC version. So Modern Warfare fully installed is like 250 gigabytes of space.
It could be bigger than a 250 gigabyte SSD.
Yes, it does not currently fit on the sort of one of the smaller SSD sizes. So yeah, it's ridiculous. So they finally added the ability to just take chunks of the game out that you don't use. So like I played the campaign months ago. I'm never going to play it again. So, or at least I'm not going to play it anytime soon. So you can uninstall that now. You can uninstall the co-op if you don't want it. You can uninstall Warzone or the multiplayer if you only play Warzone. So that's it's good. It saves some space. It's still like it's 250 gigabytes, and removing the campaign clears out like 25 gigabytes or something. So it's like still like, oh my God,
Still
it's
enormous.
huge. Yeah. The beta for Cold War is like 40 something gigs. So
Ooh,
fingers
the beta.
Crossed.
Hopefully it doesn't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, we'll see.
Depends on maps and stuff, right?
The joke is that the physical version of Cold War is a SSD that it comes on.
God.
Anywho, one of the other things that happened this week is that the PS5 or PlayStation has released the UX, or the user experience for the PS5, and that is sure a PlayStation UX, I guess.
It has some interesting features. Like I'm interested to see if they use that like hint feature. That's kind of a cool. And then also I really like the activities feature and the way that that's like tied to how long they estimate it will take you to complete something. Because it's really, I like to kind of segment my game time and go like, all right, I'm going to play this game until 8, and then I'm going to play this game for 45 minutes or whatever. So it's nice to see like, okay, well, I have a half hour left to play. Is this quest gonna be something I can complete in that time? Yeah, and that is nice, because I've definitely done that too, where you're like, all right, I'm just gonna play this little bit before bed, and you're like 2 hours later going like, why the fuck can't I go to sleep? So I highly recommend the waypoint discussion of this feature. You have to know a little bit about those people, but the way that they ribbed each other for the use of this feature was very funny. I think it was Sam in our chat who said something like he wants people to see, like he's waiting to see what dev starts using that for, like
story reasons or for kind of to mess with you in an interesting way. I don't know if that's possible, but
looking forward to Yoko Taro's first implementation of that.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what he was saying was like he's interested in seeing somebody like Yoko Taro like kind of try to mess with it. Or
it's tough because if you make it an integral part of storytelling, then it's something that can only be done on PlayStation, which doesn't seem like something that a lot of third party. That's the problem with a lot of these features. Is my understanding and assumption about the Xbox, they've shown very little of that UI, but they did show a tiny bit of it earlier this year. Is that it's the same? I mean, it's the same. It's just faster. They're not doing any like weird stuff with hint guides or activity based stuff. That's not the impression that I get at all. So, I mean, this stuff to me all looks like things that first party studios will do, and then it's not going to see much support outside of that. The activity thing, I think, is mostly just like it's looking at your playtime for things, and it's trying to like algorithmically build an estimated playtime for something. So I could see that being pretty prolific. But because it's just looking at the number of at the time the average player takes to do a thing and stuff, and then comparing that to the way that you've played the rest of the game or whatever. So that I think will be around, but
yeah, because
it's cool.
I don't know about y'all, but I do check out like if I'm going to play a game, I will check out like howlongtobeat.com.
Absolutely.
I use How Long to Beat all the time.
Yep,
yeah,
totally.
So like the idea that that's kind of built into the system and it's relatively dynamic to your own play style and like history, that's cool.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool because I do check that out for like almost every game I play, honestly, because it's just less, I'm going to stop playing a game because of it, and more of like, I just think it's interesting, and it kind of sets your expectations. It
lets you know like how much time you have to set aside in order to get through it.
Right.
You can partition your time in a way. So it's good.
Yeah. I think that stuff is neat. I do worry a little bit about like, I don't think that a developer should feel like they need to have quests that fit into a 25-minute time chunk. So I would hate to see that. Like I would hate to see this end up being used as a tool to like optimize or maximize like development in weird ways, or min-max game development in weird ways. But I mean, that already occurs to an extent with other metric tracking. So it's not like this is just surfacing things that a lot of games already are tracking and feeding back to developers, at least like service games and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it'll be cool. I hope that the thing I hate about this UI that is true of like every UI for every device ever, I don't fucking care. I don't want it to show like explore the PlayStation news. I just want that to go away. I already look at that stuff, and I don't want that news from PlayStation directly. So I think I hope you can turn that off, because it's just ads, and I don't really want to see it. I just want my console to be mine, not necessarily showing me like new games that they think I would like, because I can already figure that out myself.
As you can, no, I totally agree, because I understand why they do that, but at the same time, like every time I open up my Switch and they have the little news thing, especially since I have both an English account and a Japanese account on there, it's always just in Japanese, and like that doesn't apply to me. Yeah. So, anywho, next news is Rockstar has bought Ruffian Games, who are the Crackdown 2 devs, and now they're Rockstar Dundee.
God, I want to make so many Crocodile Dundee jokes.
I knew that was what's going to happen. Like when I saw that in the news, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to make some Crocodile Dundee jokes.
It's funny to me because there's a town near where I lived in Michigan called Dundee. So obviously I'm aware of Crocodile Dundee, but when I hear Dundee, that my first association is that town. And that is not a town I wouldn't want to put a game development. I mean, the rent would be cheap as fuck if you put a game development studio there, but I don't think anybody would want to live there. It's where the world's largest Cabela's is. Anyone? Any big hunters in the chat?
No.
Hunting and fishing. It's basically
No.
like a hunting and fishing theme park.
I'm familiar with that, but that's
I bought a
dumb.
bow from there once.
Okay.
All right. Anywho.
I wonder if they're gonna hire like Paul Hogan or anything. Is he still around? Is Paul Hogan alive? I don't know.
No idea.
I'm Googling Paul Hogan.
Yes.
I need
he
to
is.
know. Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's 81.
Oh my God, he's 81.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, I don't know. Rockstar buying studios is like,
It happened.
it happens. The last time that I guess they didn't own the LA Noire studio, but
No, that was
so
Team Bondi.
yeah, Team Bondi. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, Crackdown 2 is good.
It's okay.
It's not as good as the first one.
No.
And the first one hasn't aged particularly well. So
No. Yeah, I
don't know.
imagine. To me, it just feels like more resources they can throw at whatever.
I
they're
imagine
working
that
on
this
next.
studio will work very much on Grand Theft Auto 5. I suspect that they
5?
would put. Oh yes.
Not 6.
Oh yes. Oh yes. 5. They put new
right.
stuff in GTA 5 like every month.
That's
So,
true. Because of their damn online.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they put a new thing in Red Dead Online every like 2 years. The game. So, yeah.
Seemed like-
maybe
seemed
they'll
like
work
they-
on Red Dead.
Seemed like they really wanted that to take off like GTA Online, but like, how could it? GTA Online it's not couched in any kind of reality. It's like almost Trackmania to an extent.
It is in fact Trackmania. There is literally a Trackmania mode in GTA Online where you drive
there?
cars around in the sky on
Oh,
huge,
yeah,
crazy
for
tracks.
sure. Yeah, I've seen that. But you can't have that in Red Dead.
No, I mean they could have had much more cool stuff in Red Dead, in my opinion, because I think that setting is fantastic and the world they built's amazing. But Red Dead Online it's weird. It's weird. It's like at least GTA Online, you can jump in and do ridiculous stuff right away. So even if you don't understand it because it's super arcane, you can at least have some fun. Red Dead Online is like really confusing to do anything. Everything costs so much money, like getting weapons and new horses and cosmetics and stuff. And it's just feels like a huge grind all along. So I don't know. I had fun playing it one time with a friend, but it was like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, come help me with my like smuggling quest. And then we had to do this huge gunfight with a bunch of people and I didn't understand what was going on. And I had a shitty gun because the guns are really expensive and we died like 4 times. I don't know. It's a weird beast.
Anyways,
Anywho,
now that's a knife.
I'm surprised it took that long.
I thought maybe we were going to be able to, if I just kept talking, we would be able to skate past it.
Anyways, next piece of news is that Facebook activation is leaving some Oculus Quest 2 owners with basically bricked or unusable Quest 2s. So from what I understand, this is since this headset requires a Facebook login rather than kind of like a separate login, that's been causing people issues if they don't want a Facebook login or if something happens to their Facebook account, stuff like that.
And what can happen, the big error that keeps happening is you have to merge a Facebook account with your existing Oculus account to use it. And people are doing that and then their Facebook account is immediately getting banned through some bad verification process.
Yeah.
And
in some cases, it's people registering brand new Facebook accounts who have never had one.
Right. Which now in some cases you have to like send them a photo of your ID and shit to make a Facebook account,
Which is
fucked.
Wild.
And they don't clarify any of that to you in any kind of readable text when you go to buy a Quest 2. Like nowhere it says Facebook account required, but nowhere does it say, oh, and to make one, you have to send us a photograph of your ID. Like it's so stupid. And then, when you do merging, sometimes through some weird account verification bugs, it can say that your account's basically banned. and there's like the appeal process can take months for them to unban you, because on their end it looks like you like broke a TOS somehow and got banned. So sometimes they don't even allow you to appeal. Sometimes it takes months. And so then you just can't use your previous purchases.
One of the examples I saw is someone who did appeal, and it went to an automated system who immediately rejected it and banned their account in a way that they could not appeal it ever again.
Right. And
it's like, what?
And all of your your Oculus purchases that you've made in the past are tied to that at that point, that Facebook account. So there's no way to recover those, and you're just never going to be able to use the potentially hundreds and hundreds of dollars you spent on Oculus games again. It's just like further showing that like VR is basically dead right now. It's effectively dead because Facebook have boned this up so bad.
Yeah, like it's awful. A friend of mine has picked up a Quest 2, and she had an old Facebook account that she like either deactivated or deleted. I can't remember, probably deleted, and signed up with a new Facebook account because she couldn't get into the old one. And they made a big deal about that. They were like, oh, you have two accounts. This is some fraud going on. Like, she actually was able to talk to a customer support agent. And like, apparently they've been having back and forth emails and stuff for like the past week, just so she can get back into her purchases and play her video games. And it's like,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
It is. It's totally ridiculous.
Facebook, man, don't do stuff with them ever. They're terrible.
I wouldn't buy it. Yeah, I would absolutely advise against buying a Quest 2 right now. And you know, if you can deal with the thing about the Facebook stuff that's so shitty is that chances are, even if you don't have an account with them, they have you in their system somehow. Like there's all kinds of stuff that I don't know all the nitty gritty details on, so I don't mean to conspiracy theorize, but I was reading
it's been proven.
Yeah, I've been reading some articles that like they know that everyone, like if you use the internet, basically they know you exist, and they put you in as a like placeholder basically, and then as they learn more information about you, they continue to add information to you. And then if you ever make a Facebook account, they're like, oh great, now we have this thing to tie this person to tie to this thing. But it's basically impossible to avoid Facebook trying to find you and find out about you, which is fucked.
It sure is. It sure is fucked. But you know what isn't fucked? The last piece of it.
And on a high note.
The last piece of news, which is just listed in our Google Doc as Spider Cat, which is referring to the new reveal for Spider-Man Miles Morales, where you can get a cat. And
it's a bodega cat.
Cat.
I like everything about this except that I still find it weird that it comes out of the backpack to fight for you.
I think that's hilarious.
It's just, I guess, like there's this one of the things about Marvel that is interesting is it tries to stay like weird, like grounded in the real world in some ways,
to some extent, and then it has fighting Spider Cat,
and then the cat comes out of the backpack and attacks bad guys. So it's kind of like, okay,
yeah. But the fact that you have a cat in your backpack, like,
that part's just
10 out of 10 game of the year.
The only thing about that is it seems irresponsible to me to go like swinging around the city at like hundreds of feet in the air with your cat.
You're giving the cat a lot of adventure.
It sounds dangerous for the cat.
There were some moments where he was like flipping upside down with the backpack open, and I'm like, there got to be a lot of centrifugal force there for that cat to stay in. But
how long do you think it's going to be before PETA takes a stand against Insomniac?
Fuck PETA, who cares?
I mean, Absolutely. Fuck PETA, but also it's coming. I'm actually like, let's see, PETA Spider Cat, just seeing if this is a thing already. No, that's not it yet.
But they'll catch it at some point. But yeah,
they will.
They'll probably catch it in like 5 years,
and they'll probably make like they'll catch it in 5 years, and then they'll make some shitty online game that's like, cats don't belong in backpacks.
What if the cat were the spider?
Yeah, I don't know.
But the thing about him or her, I don't even know if they've identified the cat, but the cat attacking enemies it's not like it comes out and just scratches them. It's like it punches them and then like their necks break, essentially. Like not
really
to that extent,
weird.
Like it's bizarre. I love it.
I love it. I'm excited. I was already excited for this game because I really, really loved Spider-Man already. And then now I'm like, okay, we're getting Spider-Man. Miles Morales is a cool character and Spider-Cat. Like,
yeah, and that's
it's
a game
only getting better.
That's a game I'm never going to play because I don't care about Spider-Man, but like that is pretty fantastic.
I will, as soon as I get it, I will send you screenshots of Spider-Cat in action.
Thank you. I look forward to all of the Spider-Cat quest lines.
I hope that there's like a photo mode now, a better photo mode. There was a photo mode, but there's an improved photo mode in the remaster, and so ostensibly in Miles Morales as well. I wonder if you'll be able to like manipulate Spider-Cat, like make them like move around, like you know, you can like pose
like
people.
The model.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't want to manipulate a cat. That sounds so sad.
The cat
Cats manipulate you all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Frank does that.
No, I want to be able to like pose the cat with Miles in shots and stuff. That'd be good.
Yeah. No, I already had a lot of fun with that, with the photo mode in the first one. So I'm excited to see what that is, and then also hang out with Spider-Cat in photo mode. So,
well, once that is out, we can do a special podcast all about the cat. We can talk about cats in general. We can call it Cat Dump.
oh,
Cat dumps is exactly how they manipulate you because of the parasites.
anyways,
It's true.
I know, but I don't want to think about that.
It's just biology.
Anyways, unless anybody has anything else, I think this will be.
I'm just trying to think if there was anything else that was interesting this week. Not really. Like, Phasmophobia seems like it's going crazy. People are loving it.
I want to play that game. I didn't even get to play Among Us, and now that's already like done and dusted. Now
I haven't played it either.
It seems like people have been really doing the flavor of the month thing with games recently. It started with Fall Guys, and then Fall Guys completely fell off, and then honestly, it went to Among Us, and then like it's not fallen off yet, but now Phasmophobia is here, and people are like, "Oh, I'll just shift over to that." Like it's kind of crazy.
It feels like it kind of started in a way with Animal Crossing in terms of like everyone on social media and streamers and stuff playing and talking about one game.
That's true.
Animal Crossing didn't necessarily fall off. Like it kind of had people talking about it.
I didn't really talk about it, but I picked it up for the first time in 4 months this week. And yeah, I think like there's still like a lot of discussion, especially when they have new features, like when you can go swimming, there's new features. Now there's a lot of Halloween and fall content, but like it's less the like game of the month.
Yeah. And then
I feel like people seemed like they fell off with the egg thing, like that event.
Yeah,
like people were just kind of put off by that, and then they maybe.
I mean, to be fair, that was
back.
legit. I think they're doing. I haven't gotten too far into the event like stuff recently, but I think they've chilled out on that because that was a lot.
But yeah, then it was Fall Guys, and there was Among Us, and now we're into Phasmophobia, and it's interesting that this is happening. I don't know if it's because I feel like it's not. I don't feel like I'm paying any more attention to streamers than I have been for the last few years. So I don't think it's just awareness. I think it's more like actual because of quarantine to a degree. Like there's a lot more like everyone's playing this now.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that all three of those are small teams, like they're indies. Among Us was developed by like 5 people, and then Phasmophobia is apparently 1 developer. Fall Guys is small, but it was Mediatronics, like it's still an indie developer, but
there's some marketing behind it for sure, at least.
But and they're also all very like social in a way, because like like you're
which I think makes sense
people,
I think makes sense in the year of our Lord 2020.
Totally.
That having a social game really, really helps. I mean, like that's kind of why I wanted to play Animal Crossing again, was because I was just like, I need something cozy and feel like I'm meeting my friends again. And they asked me like, whoa, where have you been? And it's like very cozy, but then also like Among Us. I think like a big part of why that's being so successful is that it has that social element. So
the thing too that's interesting about each of these games is obviously, Destiny has a social element. World of Warcraft has a social element. World of Warcraft is a game my partner primarily uses to socialize. I use Modern Warfare currently to socialize for the most part, but it's boring to watch people play those games because if you're into Call of Duty, you might like watching someone play Call of Duty. I love Modern Warfare. I don't want to watch people play that game. It's boring. So I think what's interesting is that if you look at Animal Crossing, Fall Guys, Among Us, and Phasmophobia, they're 4 extremely different games, and each of them are very unique in the things that they're doing, and like very visually distinct and mechanically very, very different from anything else, really. Even Phasmophobia is like kind of skirting that line because it's a co-op first-person game, but it's still doing things that are very different than what you see from like typical like co-op shootery kind of things. So I think that's an interesting aspect to the whole thing, and I think is why you're seeing it happen with indie games more, because they're just significantly more interesting from a innovation perspective and from a like having more varied mechanics and concepts.
No, totally agree. Anywho, the only other thing that I thought of, not really news per se, just that Annapurna Interactive is doing a big PS4 collection. It looks real neat. The deluxe limited edition on I'm8bit looks real neat. It's just kind of expensive, so
it's also. I mean, I understand that it'll work on PS5, but it's kind of expensive to me for a PS4 collection specifically. Yeah. It's a collector's item for sure.
And it's something where I'm definitely like, if I had a lot of money, I would be all up on this. But it's
Outer Wilds is the most important game to me in that collection, and I managed to snag the limited run physical special edition that they're doing. So I think
and I'm at the point where there's a couple games where I'm like, man, if they put out that physical edition, I'm there, like with Hades, but
but
I don't know if I necessarily need that giant $200 game collection.
$199 and it contains What Remains of Edith Finch, Telling Lies, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Watum, Outer Wilds, Kentucky Route Zero, Gorogoa, and Donut County. Which and like those are good games. A lot of good games, and I think it really shows why we've talked a lot about Annapurna in particular, because that's such a varied collection of games too, and all kind of neat and interesting in their own ways. So, but like,
it's a cool collection of games, but $200 for that is a lot.
Yeah,
that's even if you. I don't mean to like assign value, because all these games are phenomenal. Yeah. I obviously think Outer Wilds is worth $200 by itself, but if most of these games came out for like $20 to $30, and if you average them out to $20 a piece here, that's like $160. It's like 40 less than the MSRP. So it's kind of like, it's tough. It's definitely a premium product for sure.
Right. And it's like first physical PS4 release of Telling Lies and Gorogoa, and the folio, the packaging looks interesting and cool, but it's like,
art books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seems worth the cost. The thing that I wonder about this stuff, we don't have to get deep into it, but this is true of like this. And then also I think a lot of the limited run stuff, I think that they're coming at it from a place of wanting to make a cool physical thing for fans. But there's so many cool physical things for fans to buy for so many different games now. I do start to wonder, like, at what point is it more responsible to say, okay, we're done now with this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that about this particular product, because Annapurna hasn't done this before, so I'm not trying to knock them, but considering the fact that a lot of these games already have some kind of physical collector's edition that you can purchase from someplace like Limited Run or I'm8bit, it's like, at what point are you looking at, and again, this isn't meant specifically for this collection, but at what point as a publisher are you looking at merchandising opportunities for a product that's kind of antithetical to that concept? Like, is it really a good road? And I'm not saying that I know the answer. I'm not really passing judgment, but I think we should consider how far down the merchandising road we want to go with some of these indie projects, because it starts to feel a little bit like, I guess, like kind of milking a project to make more physical stuff because there are fans who will buy it, I guess. And I don't think that's at all the intent with really any of these releases. I think the people making these releases are doing it for the right reasons, but I do think it can have that effect of like, do you need a shelf with 4 physical editions of What Remains of Edith Finch on it or not? Like, is that...
if any of us do, that's Sam, but...
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's actively exploitative.
No.
Because it hasn't reached that point yet.
No, it's more...
sorry, go for it.
It's more like that is kind of the like end of that road, and I'm not saying that they're anywhere near it, but
it's a potential trajectory.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
And it's something to be, cognizant of, especially like if you're an indie company.
Yes.
No, I totally get that. I think that, like for me, I'm kind of glad that some of these things are, even though I haven't really bought any of the limited runs, just because it's like, I do think that there is something, at least personally appealing to me, to have that kind of like physical thing on my, thing. And like, I still have like physical CDs and albums displayed on my, in my bedroom, because I'm like, wow, this is neat. But at the same time, like, you don't want it to be like, here's the 20th limited edition of the same game. So and there's
a FOMO aspect to it that I find particularly concerning. I look at something like oh my gosh, why am I blanking? The console, the handheld that's coming out that plays the Game Boy games.
Analog Pocket.
The Analog Pocket, thank you. Yeah, that's something to me that's like, they sold out really fast, but they're like, hey, this is just going to be a product we have in production. So it's fine. Don't worry about it. You can get one. You might not get it the first year it's available, but they're going to be around. So I don't have that. But when you look at something like this limited edition Annapurna collection, it's like, if I don't spend $200 in the next month or so, I'm never going to be able to get this. Yeah.
And it's like, to a certain extent you understand, because they're like, hey, we're going to have a limited run. Like, I mean, literally that's the name, limited run. And we're going to produce like, so we can't produce this stuff on demand for the same amount of price. Like, you understand it in theory, but at the same time, like, there is an element of like I just went to the limited run website and saw their limited edition of Return of the Obra Dinn for Switch, and it looks really cool. And I'm like, dang, I didn't notice that was there, and now I'll never have it. But
like, it's not just this can be a way bigger discussion, but it's not just limited to games.
No, totally. Not at all. Not at all.
I just sent a message in our chat so you two have context, but I'll put it. I won't put in our show links. If you want to look it up. But Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I was interested in purchasing a Blu-ray set of that, because I was like, oh yeah, I really liked it. I would like owning that, because I'd like to support those creators.
Oh, jeepers creepers.
There's only one of them that they've ever created, and it is $800.
Holy shit. Yeah. I looked that up, and it's like, it looks like a beautiful set, but at the same time, like, $800 is fucking absurd.
It's a lot of money.
Like, I really like that show. I would like to support them. That's the only Blu-ray collection they've put out. I'm not going to pay $800 US for that.
I mean, there's no media collection that I would pay $800 for. I guess maybe if there was some insane Coheed and Cambria collection, I could see it, that involved getting lunch with the band.
Right. And it's
and we haven't reached that point with the game stuff yet. It's just that it could go that direction.
This is giving me vibes of like early to mid 2000s anime, where you're like, sure, a season costs over $100. That makes total sense.
But and I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, kind of going back to this specific Annapurna collection, I don't think that it's wrong for them to put it out. I think they're putting it out for cool reasons. I think they probably believe in it as a cool art piece and a really great way for fans to physically get access to it. But also, there are a lot of people who love these games who would love to have this. It's in a time when the economy is in a very uncertain place. A lot of people have lost jobs, and it's a $200 thing that they're saying, give us this money now or you may never get this thing again. And it's just it's not that I want to condemn them for doing it, because I think that they're doing it for earnest reasons, because they also need to make money while the pandemic is happening and the game developments have been delayed and stuff. But at the same time, there is no getting around the fact that this is a limited edition collection of games that people are very passionate about, that is only available for a short period of time in a global recession as we're approaching the holidays for $200. It's hard to ignore those kind of hard facts about the product. And what's going to end up happening is, and either there's two ways that it goes. There's one way where only people who have the means can get it, and the other direction, which, you know, that's just capitalism, baby. But the other direction is someone saying, well, it's going to put me close to the wire, but I really want this thing. And that's like, I don't know how healthy that is for like the community as a whole. So it's just a tough equation, I think.
I think it's a tough thing to like, to balance, because it's like, you understand, you know, you understand the reasons why there's like limited editions of it, but at the same time, you're like, I don't know if it's great. Like it's very,
The funny thing is, it feels like it's repeating history in a way. Like, remember when what was it, Modern Warfare 2 came out with that edition that came out with like the night vision goggles, or like one of them came with like an RC car and stuff. It's like that stuff, people started rejecting it and they stopped making them because they were too expensive and the value proposition wasn't there. And then it seems like we're not there yet, but we could hit that again.
And I think the reason that I even think about it and bring it up, and the reason that it starts to rub me the wrong way a little bit, and this is a personal feeling, this is very subjective, I don't mean to condemn anybody in the equation, but when it happened with huge games like Call of Duty, it was very easy to look at it and go like, that's stupid. I don't need an RC car. Like, I bought those collector's editions for a while, and then I had a bunch of hunks of plastic that I threw in a box when I moved because they were a bigger problem than they were worth. Like, I had the Skyrim dragon, and it was very cool to sit on my nightstand for 3 years, but then it's like, God, this hunk of plastic is worthless.
And you gotta move, and you gotta bring it with you, and it takes up space.
And one of the things that I'll say is, like, a lot of these indie collections seem to be a lot better thought out than some of those like kind of cash grab collector's editions for like AAA games. Like looking at the IM8-bit site, the collector's edition for the Ori games it looks beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful collection. If you're a huge fan of the series, I think that, you know, there's an element of you can make an argument for this is like a beautiful piece to have. But at the same time, like, to
some extent, that's kind of my point, though, is that this Ori collection is freaking gorgeous. It's beautiful, like you're saying. And it's very easy to say, I don't give a fuck about an RC car, and it's good that they're doing the work to make them really nice collections. But like, this is something that I could see somebody who's a huge fan of the series and maybe played the games on Game Pass and doesn't have a ton of money going like, well, shit, I really want that. I love this series. And in a weird way, almost by offering such a gorgeous collection, it makes me feel bad for people who maybe would really love it, but don't have the means to afford it right now. And like, it's not like they're going to make these forever because of reasonable production limitations. So certainly not saying like no one should have it because everyone can't have it, but it kind of makes me, I don't look at this stuff and go like, oh my God, that's so great. I look at it and go like, that's another thing to spend a lot of money on. That's beautiful, but it's also kind of bittersweet, I guess.
Yeah. But
capitalism sucks.
Yeah. I guess that's the end of it.
In the end, it's their call if they want to make them. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. We don't have to purchase them.
No. Why, of course.
But
It's just a weird thing. And I think part of why I say that it almost rubs me the wrong way more now than then was it felt like big dumb corporate cash grabs to do a $200 version of Modern Warfare that had an RC car, and it was like just stupid. But when I look at an Annapurna collection that's $200, I'm like, man, I actually like you, and you make good stuff, and it's like it triggers different brain stuff, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to articulate.
All right. Well, check out our next episode of Big Dumb Corporate Cash Grab Dump.
Oh, God.
I could talk about that for days.
Anyways, so unless anybody else has any other news to add, in addition to that, I think that will do it for this week of Gaming Fix. You can find us on Twitter at Fix Podcasts, also on any kind of podcast platforms like iTunes. Give us reviews on whatever platform you want, please. We would like that very much so.
They sustain us. We see them, we're like, hell yeah.
Honestly, occasionally, if I'm having like a bad day, I'll look at the Podchaser reviews. And I'll just be like,
good.
Oh, thank you, people. I really like that. So, just FYI. So Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me at PJC Plays. I do just want to note quickly that apparently you can still purchase The Culling on Xbox.
God, really?
The page
Jesus
is still
Christ.
live. They have not tweeted on the official Culling Origins account since July still.
Yeah.
So I
Maybe
see
we
that
should-
at the bottom of our doc, and I always want to check in.
Maybe we should get a hold of their PR at some point.
I don't want to talk to them. Are you kidding me?
God.
I have no interest in talking to them.
True.
Alex, where can people find you?
I don't know. Playing Umineko, getting lost on an island. Not with Josh Hutchinson, but...
Might as well be. You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY. Also, important note, if you're a U.S. citizen and you can, please vote.
Yes,
Yes.
please do.
Please vote for Biden, please.
Yeah, you know what? Yes.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
It's me, the person who several months ago was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But things have gotten very bad here in the last several months, and there's not really an option of protest voting anymore. So you should just
do it.
And then stare into the void of probably having to do it for the rest of your life and nothing ever getting better. But at least less people will die.
Yeah.
Less
there's
people will die of
Probably.
COVID.
let's try to make it sure that less people die, please. So vote early if you can, vote in person if you can. Hopefully the American system could get slightly better at some point. Anyways, I think that'll do it for us, and hope everybody has a good week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
What?
Bye. There's been a video looping on my window of a woman with a Samsung SSD in her back pocket while she's skateboarding for the last hour. And I've let it loop because I'm baffled at the idea that one would put an SSD in their pocket. It's like a portable drive. And she like
a Western
kickflips off or ollies off a set of stairs and it falls out of her pocket. And they're like, it's okay. It has drop resistance. But I don't understand.
Wait, is this an ad?
Yes, it's a Samsung ad.
Oh.
Who skateboards around with an SSD in their pocket? What?
I mean,
she has a backpack on.
don't you?
You could put put your SSD in a backpack. I can't. I had to say it out loud, and I didn't want to have to try to explain it in a chat message. You don't have to put this in the podcast.
Too late. Bye.
Bye.